Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our webinar. Thanks very much for joining us. This is the very first one we're doing, so yeah, really pleased to have people join in and discuss this topic. And what we want to talk about today is being future-proofed when it comes to digitalization in automotive retailing. And yeah, my name's John Mieri. I've been in and around digital retailing for about 14 years, based in the UK. I know we've got people joining us from various countries today, so you can use the comments box. Feel free to say hello. Tell us where you're from if you want to. So yeah, as I say, I'm originally from the UK, although today I'm in Sweden, in the middle of Sweden. It's minus 17 degrees outside, so it's pretty cold. Hopefully it's not affecting my voice too much, but yeah, I'll try and be as clear as I can be. But yeah, thanks very much, as I say, for joining. And I'd like to welcome our panelists as well. So we've got 3 CEOs who have set up their own businesses that help dealerships and OEMs when it comes to automotive retailing. And I think it'd be nice for them to introduce themselves. But before we do that, we also have a poll. So I think what we're going to do is share our screen. There'll be a poll that comes up. I think you'll get a QR code. So we really want you to interact with us and have fun today. So yeah, feel free to scan that QR code and answer. There's only 3 questions, so you can answer those questions, and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see live what everyone's feeling. So at the moment, we've got the future of the automotive industry feels. Does it feel promising, daunting, or I'm unsure? So yeah, I think we're going to have a few people trickling in as we go through this. So yeah, please feel free to get on and scan it and answer some questions. And yes, as I say, we'll say hello to everyone. So there's a few people here. Hello, Maria from Spain. Thank you for joining. Eric from Sweden. Thank you for joining. And Ashley as well. Pleasure to have you here. And then, yeah, we'll go through. And whilst we're waiting for these results, I'll hand over to the panelists. So, Johan, do you want to introduce yourself first? You might be on mute.
Yeah.
There we go.
First and last. Yeah. Thank you. Really looking forward to this one. My name is Johan Sundstrand, co-founder and CEO of Firearm. I believe we took a pretty good bet 4 or 5 years ago when we said AI and automation will be the next wave of innovation, and that video will be the dominating communication tool. And since then, we have been running a video automation company and have over 2,500 dealerships across 25 countries today.
Thank you. Aranthi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for hosting us, John. It's definitely exciting to be part of this chat alongside Lars and Johan, who has a lot of industry experience. But yeah, a quick intro from my side. So I'm Iranti, the CEO and co-founder of ServiceForm, and one of the leaders in the automotive lead conversion space in the Nordics, growing fast in Spain and just started in the UK. And I'm right here. So we have about 700 plus customers, and we specialize in lead generation through modern technologies with a fantastic live chat and management software. So yeah, just very similar to Johan, we have been around for about 6 years, and I mentioned the UK. Recently moved here, and super excited about it.
Great, thanks very much. And then finally, Lars, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, John. Looking forward to this webinar very much today and hearing all the comments also. So please add them so we can adjust this webinar to what you're thinking about. So I'm Lars Eriksson. I've been in the tech space towards automotive retail since 2008. I'm the CEO and co-founder of CarCare, and we're a workflow automation tool. What that basically means that we take your balance sheet, the cars you own, and we divide that up into pieces, and we try to automate the entire life cycle of the car to increase your stock turn and lower costs, basically. So that's what we do. We've been running this company since the early 2020, so about 4 years.
Thanks, guys. Very, very good. And whilst you were doing your introductions, we've had some more answers on the poll, and we've had some more people join us as well and say hello. So thank you to everyone saying hello. Mainly from Sweden, Norway, Spain, and Paul as well from the UK. So thanks very much for coming and getting involved. I think we'll try and have a look through some of these answers. What the first one looks pretty conclusive, which I think is really good, and maybe it's a testament to the types of people who like to attend these events and learn. I think optimistic people, which is really great, and that's what we love seeing, people who are looking to the future and very positive. And so 100% people think that the automotive industry is promising right now, which is fantastic. We're going to talk about how lots of change that could be coming up. So yeah, we'll move on from that question because it looks pretty conclusive, as I say, and then maybe a slight split on this one in terms of what's the biggest worry for the upcoming year, for 2024. And very interesting again to see that the majority are looking at the agency transition at the moment. So a few of you looking at that as a bit of a worry. I know that we've got some people who want to touch on that as well. So yeah, stay tuned, and hopefully we'll address potentially some of those concerns. Also catching up digitally, a couple of people there, which hopefully you're in the right place for that. And supply and demand as well, by the looks of it. So yeah, I guess at the moment we've got different people saying different things around what supply looks like, and it does change per country. As I say, there's a fair few different people from different countries on, so it could be different. But I know that we've got some people who want to touch on what that could look like again. So yeah, so very interesting that nobody's concerned about profitability. That's hopefully a good thing. So yeah, hopefully not something we have to be too worried about going forward. But I'm sure we'll touch on that topic as well. So thanks very much for being part of that vote. The last question was about AI. Seems to be a hot topic, which is again why we're doing this. And really good to see that the majority of people again are quite excited by it, but also understandable that there are stories out there around AI and what it can actually mean. And again, I think we've got some people here who will be able to address the people who are slightly worried or find it difficult to quite grasp at the moment. And whilst we've been going through this, we've had a lot more people join. So thank you again. I'll just reiterate, thanks for joining. We want to make this fun and interactive, so we've had a few people answer the poll, which is great. What we'll do is we'll move on. We've had the guys introduce themselves, and essentially we'll kind of jump into some of these details now. And you guys obviously go out and speak to dealerships quite often, people who run these businesses. What are they saying at the moment? We've got some on the call with us, and we've seen some thoughts there based on the poll. But in your experience, what are people, what are the opportunities out there for dealerships over the next year or two, and what are they worried about as well? So yeah, Lars, let's start with you.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, we'll meet a lot of dealers, and there are a few topics coming up regarding the short term 2024, and it drives back to what's going on in the world, right? So the macroeconomic level, interest rates going up. We have the war. We have the semiconductor shortage, which have caused new car sales to plummet, basically. New car sales are down significantly, which will impact deliveries in 2024. And that will also have impact on part exchange volumes. So we will see supply shortages probably. Just a couple of days ago, we saw Bravo Auto announcing they're shutting down 8 supermarkets. And one big reason of that is sourcing of vehicles. So probably sourcing will be a concern going forward.
The kind of supply and demand part of that poll there.
Exactly.
Vehicle sourcing is definitely a concern for a few people at the moment.
And brand dealers have a slightly better position there since they have a natural flow of cars flowing in through parts exchange. Mm-hmm. The other big topic is, of course, that we saw in the poll also is the agency transition. Hopefully today we can convey some of the experience from the Nordics So we had our head office in Sweden, and we started this transition back in 2019. So we have been going through it and seen how to become a winner in this change, and what are the things you should avoid. So
Yeah.
the agency transition, basically, there are a few things that's going on with the agency transition and dates being pushed. Volvo just pushed the date forward. BMW pushed the date on some markets going forward. And it's also a gradual change, most often in the agency transition. Maybe light commercial vehicles comes first, or EVs comes first.
And
Some
again,
of the
agency was another one of those topics that people wanted to talk about. So I think we will delve into that in a bit more detail just in a few minutes' time. I think it'd be good for Johan as well to maybe answer as well the first question with regards to, if you can remember it now, with regards to
No, I do.
the opportunities out there for dealers, and also their kind of worries for the people that you've been speaking to recently.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we have a lot of customers, but they are very spread out, almost across 25 countries today. But I mean, the questions are more or less always the same. Nowadays, I mean, the last quarter has been around like, will AI overtake my sales team, or even like when? And also, like, how do we cut time to market from the moment that we have really set the trade price? All the content creation challenge with all the new touching points that they need to manage. And also, how can we reach more buyers outside our own website, especially the marketplace, which has been very dominated for quite some time, but that could change. And I mean, probably the most common question is that we sell the same product, and we really need to stand out within the crowded market. And more or less the same product, but now we're not just competing on a local level, we're competing on the international level. So how do we stand out as a car dealer? So a little bit more retail focused, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, you mentioned some of the worries you've heard is about AI and will it replace my sales team. AI is clearly a very hot topic at the moment. It's been a buzzword for quite a while, and I think, as the poll mentioned, I think it needs demystifying a bit as well. So I think maybe Arantha, you can help on this. You know, what is AI to you, and yeah, how can people help people grasp what it can do for them?
Yeah,
I mean, in general,
go
I
ahead.
love keeping things simple. So from what I've seen so far, all the conversations, including yesterday, I was at the Ben Bowl, which is a very prominent event in the UK in the automotive industry. I got into a few conversations. So what I've been hearing in Spain and Finland, in the UK, it's almost all the same. So what I've seen is that AI means a lot of things to a lot of people. But in the end, it's just tech. And like with all tech, if you just understand it, it can help us. But if you're afraid of it, it'll help our competitor. And I don't think none of us want that, right? So I would definitely say that AI and the change it's bringing is a massive opportunity. It can easily help us reduce your workforce to be more efficient while selling more cars, and even get rid of rid of some of the brick and mortar costs you have. And we have already seen that uh, with some of our customers. So in a nutshell, I would just strongly encourage everyone to learn and embrace AI. And it'll basically definitely, help you to stay ahead of the curve like the internet did in the early 2000s.
Great, thank you. And Johan, you were going to say something as well.
I mean, I agree with the end of my holidays in mid-August. I wrote a statement that I believe AI will be able to sell cars by 2025. And since then, over 800 million people have been reading about that. Over 300 plus magazines have reached out to us and wanted to write exactly that and elaborate on that. And when I attended, or I was speaker at a couple of events last month, I asked the audience, like, how many of you believe that AI will be able to sell cars? I mean, I guess 80-90% raised their hands. So and at the last event, I had to do a follow-up question based on that. So I was like, so 2025 is around the corner, right? It's not as far. So do anyone have the knowledge or even the playbook of how that's going to work? And no one raised their hand. So I believe we have a lot to talk about today. Then it's huge, and as you said, it's pretty simple. It's just a machine that you program or train that could perform tasks that usually require the human intelligence to do. So you just need to understand how it works, then just embrace it.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much. And Lars, you've got anything that you'd like to add on that part?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think creating leads and converting them to sales automatically is a huge opportunity in automotive retail. I think it also will be applied in sourcing of cars. I think that will also be an area we will see going forward, because it will be such a big problem going forward. So opportunity lies in the we'll create the solution basically.
Very good. And we've had a couple of questions come in as well, which is great. So thank you guys for your questions and keep them coming. Lars, for you, Paul has asked, or rather than asked, just made a comment to say that there's also a positive spin. So he said interest rates are stabilizing in the EU and UK, with cuts anticipated during Q1 next year. Inflation is down significantly across EU and UK as well. Supply chain rapidly returning to normal. As a consequence, vehicle supply has eased significantly. And then also makes the point, of course, it's not rosy. Customer confidence remains low, and buying cycles are lengthening. So yeah, thanks for that, Paul.
Yeah,
Lars, do you want to comment on that?
Quick comment on that. I also read the good news we see rising in demand, and long term, I'm a positive guy. I'm not a pessimist. So, but there's a lag in all of these metrics. So when new car sales are down, we have a long delivery cycle on new cars. So that's why in the short term we will still see the effects in 2024 of this economic environment that has been going on basically. But long term, I'm very positive throughout this change.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Aranthi, there's a question from Edward as well. Says, how can here we go, it's on the screen. Thank you. How can tech help us increase our sales? I mean, AI can help our commercial teams to increase sales.
Yeah. Hi, Edward. Yes, a good question. So, ideally, you combine AI with your website and portals to get more sales, and and also practically search, and that's what I've been basically doing. So, ideally, your customers can ask your website, okay, example, can you show me all Audis under 20,000 euros near me? And then we are able to pull in from your site and do a search and then show all the Audis in that range to your customer.
Okay. And I guess as well, with regards to increasing sales, I remember speaking to a few dealerships myself where there was, a bit of not necessarily hesitancy, but there was the debate of, when you go onto a website, any of us go onto a website, you can kind of tell maybe when you're speaking to a chatbot versus a human. And there's the kind of pros and cons that go with that. Have you got anything from a data point of view that would suggest that conversion rates are better or the same or worse? How have you seen that when you've compared and spoken to your customers and they've put in something like an AI chatbot versus a team of humans running it, and what does that mean from a cost perspective as well?
Yeah, so comparing the traditional way of doing, let's say, live chat to the modern way of conversion, where AI is a part of it, we have seen that you can easily get up to 3 times more leads. Average increase has been around 37%. So those are the numbers. But I would like the fact that you asked me this, I would also like to give a visual example. Or, I mean, no, not visual, but more like picture in your brain with me, right?
Mhm.
So let's say, what let's think about what a live chat agent does on a car sales website. So what happens is, let's say that you are a customer and I'm the agent.
Yeah.
You will come on the chat, say hi, and then we have measured, or it'll take you about average of 49 seconds for you to get your first response. And then
Mhm.
as the live chat agent, I'm going to be like, oh, hi there, how can I help? And then you're going to tell me I'm looking for this particular car. And then I'll say, right, great, I can help you with that. Why don't you give me your name, phone number, and email address so I can connect you to the right salesperson. Then what happens is I will manually send this information to that right salesperson. So if you think about it, between this interaction, we wasted your time, my time. So basically, as the customer, the agent, and then we also made the salesperson wait, and we delayed from that person being able to get the lead immediately. So if you think about it, John, you don't really need a person to do this handover manually, right? So instead of the
Okay.
manual process, what I would recommend is a lead conversion tool on, let's say, a very specific car page, which asks the customer, hey there, you're actually looking at this Audi. Are you interested in this car? Then what the customer can do is just click on the button that says yes, and then may ask one more question. Do you have a car to exchange?
Mhm.
And from that point, we'll just automatically send that right information to the salesperson automatically through email, through SMS, through WhatsApp, whatever form is easiest for them, along with their CRM. And with this, what's practically happening is you have cut down on a manual process, but by still achieving the exact same thing.
And where does the uh, artificial intelligence come in at that point?
So it's the initial qualification, right? So it's initial qualification. So it's done automatically. You don't need the manual person to do it.
Okay. And what's the conversions like on that then versus people who haven't done that? So you say you've worked with dealers across different countries. So I think you mentioned 3 times better. Is that on that specific example that
Yes.
you were giving?
So it's about up to 2 to 3 times, depending on the traffic you have and the quality of it. So with like the service form solution in general, I can guarantee you that if you compare it to an outsourced a live chat agent, that 2 to 3 times is definitely guaranteed. And with the numbers, it's practically to say that if there's context, AI an AI chatbot is much more superior and faster.
Okay. And Johan, have you got anything to add to that? When Edward was asking, can I basically help commercial teams increase sales? How would you come at it?
Wow, I could speak for hours about that subject, unfortunately. I mean, there are so many many things that we can do. I'm not going to go into all of that because I know we'll also be talking about how the customer have changed. But to tap into what you said, that there are so many studies now talking about how we as humans. There was a Turing test actually, where over 500,000 people participated, and they asked the question after a 2 minutes chat. Who did you have a conversation with? Was it a human or an AI bot?
Can
And yeah, did you hear me? No. Okay, so there was a Turing test. So over 1.5 million people participated, chatted with someone, and then after 2 minutes, they asked, or the system asked the question, did you have a conversation with a human or an AI bot?
Yeah.
And 32% couldn't tell. So already 32% can tell. And then there's another study saying that no one will be able to tell who we're having a conversation with in 6 years from now after having a 2-hour conversation. And I mean, who wants to hide behind forms? I mean,
Yeah.
who likes forms everywhere? So I don't want to talk to speak to someone and ask like, to this vehicle is equipped with winter tires or not. I mean, and the sales doesn't want to answer these questions either. But it's about AI can analyze the market, AI can cut time to market, AI can perform things that it's impossible to do manually in order to meet the customers everywhere in all buying processes, follow up proposals, maintenance. There's so many things it can do together with you or as a separate.
Interesting. So it seems, like you say, it seems like there's going to be a big shift at some point, and I think bringing it back to the automotive industry, because in terms of the wider macro events, 10 years ago, ACES was started in terms of the four biggest impact areas to automotive retailing. Large, I guess, from your point of view, how do you see that now? Are they still the biggest areas? Have we had the impact that we thought they were going to have, or is it still too early to tell? And how does something like AI fit in now?
Yeah, so we started talking ACES a long time ago, but autonomy, connectivity, and ride sharing hasn't had the tremendous impact to automotive retail yet, at least. However, the E stands out, the electrification. And what that means is that a lot of brands coming in, especially from China, this will generate less revenue in after sales, and you have to tackle these problems, embrace this change. I think it was Charles Darwin that said it, that's not the strong that survive. Maybe you correct me in the comments here, but it's the one that can adapt to change. And I think that's quite accurate. We've done this transition to some extent in the Nordic countries and seen that you can come out profitable on the other side and become winners through this transition. So, and we saw the major shift when political incentives were started to roll out. So political incentives has a huge effect. I know in the UK that date has been pushed now to ban ICE vehicles. It will probably have an impact. I think the forecasting now was, maybe you know the numbers, John, but it was reduced significantly.
Yeah, that's all. Basically, the OBR had cut the 2027 forecast of number of electric vehicles from high 60% to 20s, something like that, or 28%, something like that. I need to get the figures, but they basically it's more than halved their prediction of what the penetration of electric vehicles will be like in the marketplace by 2027.
But a few key areas that we have seen very successfully implemented is automation. It's just to add what you once said, automation will be key to drive profitability going forward. Another key factor is centralization. You cannot do everything on every dealership. You need to look at centralizing different functions across a dealer group. One example can be pricing of cars. So if you centralize that functionality, you can then gradually transition also over to an automated model. Pricing services can be great on volume cars, but it's still a challenge to price light commercial vehicles, premium cars, etc. Then you can automatically source them to an expert team that does it, whilst the ones that has a good pricing service, you can just automate them. So yeah, automation and centralization are two key factors in going through this change.
Okay, perfect. And Johan, similar to you, when it comes to the macro effects of what's going to happen in automotive, to Lars' point, the E has stood out. Maybe the others haven't caught up yet. Do you think AI supersedes the old acronym, let's say, the ACES, or will it work in conjunction and just help speed up some of the stuff that hasn't taken off so quickly yet?
Both, probably. But I think one of the biggest shift basically is to understand that car dealerships will no longer just be a car dealership, because all the AI and automation, all the tools that you need in order to meet the behavior of the new customer, or the new customer, the way we like to buy things nowadays, and also in order just to not be outcompeted, you will be partial a tech company. And I've been doing tech for 20 years. That comes with some speed. So I think you just need to start to embrace technology and start to think more like a tech company, because it will change rapidly. Years, I mean, we've seen some tremendous change this year, but I believe next year will be the year of quality when it comes to these tools. So people in companies will really start to use them. This year have been all about, I mean, me as a person that used and utilized a lot of these tools, but now next year will be about the companies.
Okay, nice. And you talk about becoming a partial tech company. I think I've seen a few dealer groups, specifically in the UK, who are arguably trying to go all the way to become a tech company, and have hired big teams of developers and RPA experts, etc., and trying to build their own systems. When it comes to the expense of that, for instance, it might not be for everybody. So, kind of, what are the pros and cons of trying to go wholeheartedly yourself versus, to your point, partially becoming a tech company, and ultimately, how do people get there? That's the biggest question. How do they do that, and who do they look for help?
Obviously, not to try to do everything at the same time. And I think some of the businesses or companies that believe that they could sell directly to consumer without any human in between, I think they were just a little bit too early, and they didn't really embrace the tools that they couldn't embrace the tools that we are starting to see now, because there were no tools like that. So just wait and see until end of next year.
Okay. Yeah. And we've had a couple of more comments come up, so I want to address them as well. Paul's asked, or has noted that speaking to a representative from Nissan Europe, she told him that Nissan after-sales revenue in Norway reduced by 40% year to date. Dealers need to find alternative revenue streams, and they are thinking about tyres, although sadly that horse has bolted. Who buys tyres from a franchise dealer nowadays? So thanks for the note. And I mean, maybe Lars, I'll come to you. I guess I pick up on the point, and I know that you mentioned it earlier, but Paul's saying that if after sales revenues are down, we need to find other alternative revenue streams. I guess that's absolutely accurate, but also if there's rising costs, there's way to try and soften the increase in costs as well, when trying to increase profit.
Yeah, I think there's several sides to this, but of course EV does not require the same amount of service as a ICE vehicle. So the numbers doesn't surprise me, and we've seen this change, and what dealers tend to do is try to be more brand focused, so they tie the customer closer to their own brand and not just to the OEM brand. So they have a tighter relationship, use CRM tools to get a closer connection with the customer through marketing automation, etc. I think that's one part of the story. I think also there's a cost side to this. So you need to look at how can I make after sales more profitable. A couple of years ago, we saw a big shift in focusing on used car sales, that the ratio between used cars and new cars will increase. Also tied to agency, because you control that part of the business fully. We've seen agency that some brands are also claiming the first cycle of the used car through agency. So that's also something to think about going forward. But what you can do in the service side is is centralization, like I said, and automation. We still see a lot of post-it notes on the service side. There's plenty to do there. I think margins have been very good in after sales. That's where you have a lot of chunk of your profit, and it's being challenged now. So, but lift that lid to see what you can do there, and centralization and automation, I think, are two key factors in keeping your profits up in after sales.
Yeah, I think that's there was a podcast I was listening to. Again, it's a UK podcast, and one of the group CEOs was on there, John O'Hanlon from Wayland's, and I think he did a talk over in Finland recently at one of the conferences there, AKL. But one of the kind of key takeouts from the podcast was know your numbers. And I suppose if you're saying there's a lot of manual stuff still going on, you know, most people have an ideal way of how, you know, a workflow goes, and then there's the real world way of what actually happens in between, and, you know, lots of steps that people probably don't understand are very manual still. And maybe that's your point, is technology can help at that point reduce costs in the business. So yeah, fair enough. And then another comment here from Edward saying, following Paul's note, can your tools help us dealers increase the after sales service revenue, or is there any help on that, since it's one of our main income and retention tools? So I think we kind of pretty much just kind of touched on that a bit, but
John, I think we also missed Paul's previous question, because I think it's also touching
oh
on that.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. So for clarity, are you're saying that your search model works like an Amazon search as opposed to the traditional drop-down menu search? That was going
Yes.
back.
So with that, we're basically adding a new type of search for car sales, right? And it's based on AI. So what it practically does is it gets the properties from your question, and then we can show you results based on that. So an example is, let's say I want a green 2009 a Kia under 20,000 euros. So the properties would basically be like the AI picking up is 2009, the green, the Kia, 20,000, or within a certain range, and then results are shown based on that. And then to answer the other part about the after sales from my end. So yes, that's something that we have seen is not happening a lot with websites, because most of the customers that we've had, unfortunately, for some reason, they're excellent at what they do. But when you go on to a certain page, there, let's say front page of the website or even the portal, they don't really highlight exactly what it is that they're offering. So something that which I'm very proud of, that we have done really well, is that with the chat tools you can nicely lift up your services, and then when you lift them up, it's much more visible, and then you're encouraging the customer to, hey, this is what you're looking for, pick which one it is, right? So then that's a very nice way to do that after sales part.
Thanks. And yeah, I think Paul, another comment here, which is yeah, talking about absorption rate ultimately. So yeah, I know one of the benchmarks used to be, try and get 100% absorption rate, i.e. your after sales covers the full costs of your dealership, and then your used and new sales will purely be profit. And I think specifically in the UK market, I've seen that actually that's dropped further and further in the benchmark now. According to some of the guys who do the composite reports, the benchmark is 60% instead of 100%. And actually, a lot of dealers I speak to say they're lucky if they get to 60%. So, Paul, I can feel your pain. I understand where you're coming from, and I think some of the dealers I spoke to recently have said that the after sales and used cars now pay for the costs, and it used to be new car, and that could be the profit, and they're not obviously now with new car. With agency, I think that's what probably from the poll at the beginning, a few people wanted to understand about agency. That might tie in there as well. So, Johan, maybe from your point of view, from an agency perspective, how do you think that can impact dealers or large as well? I know you're quite close. Maybe actually thinking about the Nordic market. Large, you said in Sweden they went ahead. sort of 4 or 5 years ago with agency. Are there any positive news stories from any dealerships that you've spoken to with regards to results?
Yeah, so there were, of course, winners and losers in this change, but those who were winners were those who adapted the fastest, and the market share of the brand actually increased. In the beginning, when the brand bought up the inventory, they discounted it and pushed out the inventory. Then slightly it decreased initially the market share.
Right.
But after a couple of months, it started to increase, and it was actually better than prior to the agency transition. And we see the same thing happening in UK now. So Mercedes has gone over, dropped their market share quite significantly. Hopefully, we will see that the agents will embrace this change and see the positives, and the same thing that happened in the Nordic countries, that it will start to increase and hopefully also surpass the prior numbers. Actually, from a sales perspective, at least what the dealers tell me, they say that it's actually quite more easy to sell cars after, when you have a fixed price, so you don't have to focus on negotiating. You focus on the customer experience and the relationships instead. So it's mainly positive of the dealer groups that has gone through this and worked with it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Not all has transitioned, of course, but if you embrace it, I think it can be a very positive outcome.
Cool. And thank you. And we've got a question for Johan as well, so I want to bring you back in at this point. It says, is there anything AI can do to help stretched marketing teams? Most dealers have reduced marketing headcount when compared to just a few years ago, but it seems like the marketer's responsibility is only growing. Thanks, Sean, for that question, by the way.
I mean, have you read a job description for a marketeer? What they're supposed to do? I mean, it's that long. You should be you were supposed to be, I mean, a copywriter, magician. You're supposed to be super mega SEO ninja. You should be advertising, programmatic expert, social media influencer, video creator, blah blah blah. It's impossible. So I believe a little bit of AI and automation would release some stress level, so they can perform a little bit better and more effective. So I mean, this is, for a marketeer, this is the best thing that could ever happen.
Yeah, perfect. And I know, actually, I want to also ask you about the article. There was an article, wasn't there, about the sales process and AI completely selling a car by the year 2025.
Yeah.
Be good to for you to elaborate on that for our guests as well, for our listeners.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just that it's the quality. I mean, we've been within the automation space for quite some time. I've been trying to automate things. I believe that most repetitive things could be automated and should be automated. But the quality hasn't really been there. I mean, you could automate a lot of things, but when it comes to really create the quality out of it, then AI is starting to become so good in what we can predict and what we're seeing now. And what we have proof from other OEMs like Tesla, that it's possible to sell direct to customer with a little bit better quality, and with AI analyzing the market, personalize everything to you. I mean, it's there today, but it's just that not that many companies have really embraced the technology fully. But I mean, if we had a chance tomorrow to help one car dealer do everything, I think we could. Already. So it's very close, and I think the whole OEM. This is actually quite. Everyone is talking about the relationships that all the car dealers have, and they do have a lot of relationships. But I mean, Ola Källenius, which is the chairman of the board of Daimler, which is actually a Swede. I've been following him for some time. I mean, they have a lot of cash. He's meeting with Sam Altman at OpenAI, I mean, imagine the resources that they do have now. So if they start to embrace all the technology, which they are doing with all the money, all the backups, all the connections they have, they will be able to create relationships without any human in between, or with a human as a co-pilot, but with the AI in front. So this is the time for them in order to create all of these relationships. They can really do it together with AI now.
Nice, thanks. And just picking up on your earlier point as well about automating repetitive manual tasks and being able to speed that up, and it's really important. And some people have embraced it quicker than others. That brings me nicely to Stuart's comment as well. Stuart has a, where is it? That's not that one, sorry. It's jumped about. Here we are. Dealers have identified that in 2024, shortening the forecourt time of available used car stock is essential to maintaining revenues, not reviews. Franchise dealers are also focusing on profit per headcount, which is why it's imperative to adopt automated technology to speed up processes and improve efficiency. AI takes away those repetitive manual tasks and gives staff time, exactly to your point, and I think there's different parts of the business, right? So there's attracting customers and helping them buy cars from you, and then there's also staff who work for you, and there's operating costs, and there's centralization of roles, let's say across bigger groups, to potentially help with those costs. And I think both of you are ultimately saying that maybe technology can help there. Lars, I guess this is more your area. Be interested to hear your thoughts on Stuart's comment.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. I mean, if your inventory is not prepped and online, you can attract customers to it. So used car prep time is of utter importance. And just go back and ask yourself, what's my prep time throughout the group? And how do you get that number? Do you know it? Do you advertise the car before you prep it or afterwards? In 2024, you have to know this. Are you, when you're looking, and also an important questions is, if you acquire an auction car, how long does it take for it actually arrives at the facility? You're paying stocking loans for it. Depreciation is happening. You want the car there as fast as possible so you can prep it and have it online. So you want an Neranti can create leads for you on it. So start knowing your number is of great importance. And there's tools for it that a great point, Stuart.
Yeah, thanks. And Paul, again, with another comment, which I think is a fair one. I mentioned earlier that we had the ACES acronym 10 years ago saying these are the biggest changes that are going to happen, and 3 out of 4 haven't really scratched the surface yet, I guess. But his latest comment is, I'm a believer that AI is a hugely important shift. However, I also think we shouldn't overcook it. Remember the futuristic ads from the 1960s. If all that came to pass, we would be wearing space suits and taking pills for dinner. Humanity needs humanity, and for that reason, will always prevail. Nevertheless, AI will have an important part to play. So, Johan, I guess, and Aranti, maybe the two of you can answer that. Is it a case of we over egg what we think is going to happen, and it doesn't always happen as quickly, or you believe that this is self-learning and so will actually happen quicker than other things that we've spoken about in the past?
Well, at least for me, I mean, 2024, I don't see that there's going to be a massive industry change in AI with the automotive industry, because it's a traditional industry at the end of the day, right? It takes time, but it's definitely started, and it is now time for you to jump on the a wagon to to get started and explore where should I improve on. But yeah, of course, if you look at 2025, then that's you going fast forward. You need to get started, but I don't see it massively changing a lot of things within a year or two.
And Johan, I feel like there might be a different answer.
Yes, for sure.
I mean,
it's 2025, right?
I mean, I fully respect the question, but it's like saying like, when will internet have any effect on us? It's like the same. It will have the same effect. I know that for sure. I mean, it's the next biggest thing to internet. So it's gonna change everyone's life, and it's going to happen much faster than we believe. I mean, just look at what happened since ChatGPT came. It's as I said, there was a study on with Harvard together with Boston Consulting Group, where they gave ChatGPT to 1,000 consultants. That is a cost of £30 or €30 per employee to give out ChatGPT to 1,000 consultants at Boston Consulting Group. And remember, to be able to work at Boston Consulting Group, you need a few masters and bachelors and an experience. ChatGPT made everyone perform 40% better and 25% faster for €30. I mean, just ChatGPT. Imagine what will happen during next year.
Then I agree with you, Hunt. But then I also see there's this thing because with a chat GPT, not everyone took it into use very well and understood how to use it. People had to figure out, hey, here are the prompts. Here's if you want to do this task, do this, right? So if you really think about like a lot of the people, this is something I feel in general about the company at Service Phone with people we work, the customers. A lot of them, I don't want to say that they're traditional, but they do take time to adopt. That's how
I agree, but you will not. I mean, the whole half a year ago, I said I should start a consulting business and hire prompt engineers and rent them out to companies. But I totally changed my mind a couple of months afterwards, because you will not be able, you will not need to be able to prompt. AI will prompt for you. So you will just interact with AI, and AI will make up some decision. AI will understand everything. Just to look at what Google just released with Gemini, it's already understanding what you think. It's already understanding what you're drawing. It can make some conclusions. You can start to work with it as a co-pilot and assistant, and that will happen very, very fast.
Very interesting. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. And I need to kind of wrap up because I think we're very close to running out of time. So if I could just ask each of you to give maybe what's the biggest opportunity for dealers going forward? What would you say that is? And also, what's the biggest opportunity? But what can dealers actually do about it as well? Because there's often, as you say, it's the implementation. So yeah, Lars.
Yeah, sure. Even though AI, if it will drastically change everything, it will play a major factor. But still, there are some areas that are outside of this scope. You still need to have the car online to create leads. You need something to watch, etc. It will be gradually implemented. In some areas, will go faster than others. In short term, my recommendation is cost reduction and automation. And as a third point, probably data consolidation. No one wants a 65th system. Dealer groups have 64 systems already, and they look in all of them. It's a complex IT environment. Look at consolidating data, streamlining processes to have a better P&L next year, and also knowing your numbers. So even if you work with Johan, Irante, or me, you should be able to tell if they make a difference. So the end result should be better profitability. Can be through increased sales. Then it's the increased sales you want to measure. All of the other KPIs are just the means of getting to increased sales or better profitability. So knowing your numbers and controlling the controllables, that's my recommendation.
That's
Cool.
actually a very good
I
point
think,
because like
yep.
knowing the numbers part, we have had quite many customers because who would walk in, they do not know the numbers, and then it came into a point it was very hard to show the difference. what's before and after. So
Yeah.
we've been encouraging them a lot. And then when they did not have the numbers, we even started to make it a point from our side to say that, you know what, let's measure your numbers first and then do the start from our side. So a very good point.
Yeah, thanks. And Johan, what do you think? Going back to the question, biggest
I
opportunity. Well, I think I might know the answer for that. But how do people,
no,
how
I
do the people
mean,
on this webinar actually implement and go about grasping that
I,
opportunity?
you know what, I want to elaborate on what Lars said, and because think about numbers today, and this is where we are going to be challenged a lot, because what you are used to measure will not work anymore. Because just for example, I mean, all car dealers more or less are focusing on leads, obviously. But what is a lead? I mean, with AI, you will not just receive 5 million leads, you probably receive less leads, but they're more likely to buy. So if you just start to look at the metrics for leads, it's like it's the whole funnel, like increased sales, not just numbers of leads. And I mean, a lot of teams are separately, and they have a commission, they have a separate task, they have goals, and like you need to start to evaluate the whole process. And it's much harder to understand what works or not. For example, you just don't want to drive traffic anymore. People doesn't want to leave. If you're focusing, if you're I mean surfing on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, you want to stay there, right? You don't want to leave the platform all the time. You don't want to hide the. I mean, if you go into our website, we have no gated content whatsoever. If we had gated content, we probably will receive plenty of leads, but we don't. We are open. We share everything with our customers, and the customers that do convert, they want to buy, and almost all customers that ask us, they are ready to buy. So understand how the customer have changed, and also what effect from buying new tech will do to the numbers and to the funnel. So obviously, I elaborate a little bit too much probably here, but of course also when I talk about embrace AI, don't start with everything. Absolutely not. Identify your objectives. Try to understand what type of business performance can 5 hours saved do. For example, do I want to increase sales efficiency? Is it just about reducing all of this manual tasks, reduce costs, quantify time with business performance, and then start exploring some solutions and partners and do a pilot and then scale and educate the team. But start with something and then scale.
Thank you. Okay, right. I think we're going to probably have to wrap up. So before we do, can I ask for prediction for 2024, specifically next year? What's the market going to look like? What's the landscape? Lars?
Yeah, a few quick ones. It's going to be a tougher year, probably challenging in sourcing. Putting my neck out, residuals value just going down, and decreasing margins. So take action now, not later.
Johan?
I agree with what Lars said. Definitely take action now, and just more or less what I said before, that the traditional model will not really work anymore. Really understand the customer, and start to think more like a tech company. Otherwise, probably not next year, but we will see a lot of car dealers being outcompeted within the following 2 years.
And Ranti?
Yeah, I mean, exactly the same thing. Like, get started now. Don't wait, because it takes time to do things. And one very important thing is that, which we have seen a lot, is it's important that the car dealers are in the places where the customers want to communicate. So basically, the channels that they want to communicate from. Because let's say in the UK, 74% of the people use WhatsApp as a communication channel, and they would love to get support through it. And then in Sweden, it's completely different. The top messaging channels are SMS and Facebook Messenger. So if you are in the right places, you're definitely winning, and there's a lot of opportunity you're currently missing out on. So get on those now.
Thanks, guys. And there were just a couple more comments as well. One that Paul has put on again. Thanks, Paul, for being so interactive. It's great. That's why we want to do this stuff. He was saying, I was speaking to Marubeni yesterday in London, and across their UK dealers, they operate 400 different systems. Which is, yeah, I mean, that's you can see the scale of potentially of the problem of, yeah, where do you start? But ultimately, yeah, I think Lars, you mentioned consolidation, data consolidation. I guess that's the point you're talking about.
Yeah, and once you go agency, and especially if you're a multi-franchise, you will be introduced to a couple of new systems when you're introduced to agency model. And if you have 10 brands that are doing this transition, you can do the math. The IT environment will be complex. You need to consolidate that somehow.
Perfect, thanks. And yeah, a couple of more comments as well. Edward's asked, talking about lead generation, do you have the % lead conversion for chatbots on car dealerships? So Ranthi, maybe you could answer that one.
Yeah, so that's what we've seen about. It's between 35 and 40%. So it depends a lot on the traffic, like I mentioned before. But yeah, around that range.
Cool. Okay, thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm going to end with some real rapid fire questions, just to a bit of fun at the end. So EV or ICE?
EV.
EV.
Ice.
Oh, okay.
I'm a former racing driver. I mean,
Fair enough.
They should drive an EV.
So AI chatbot or
not on
human?
track. Chatbot.
Hybrid.
I like human interaction.
You need a little, right? You always need a little.
I guess artificial intelligence, would it completely automate the sales process going forward?
Very likely with the newer generations.
I would
Not my
say,
parents. That's not going to happen.
I would say not within the next decade.
Johan?
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Do you think the majority of car dealerships are prepared for the future? I say the word majority because, yeah, there's different people, obviously different dealerships are at different stages. So where do you think the majority are? Prepared or not?
That's a no.
It's a no.
Okay. And agency model, the other thing at the beginning of the poll at the beginning that people wanted to speak about, is it a threat or an opportunity?
I think both. Definitely
Can't
both.
sit on the fence. Can't sit on the fence. Is it more of a threat or more of an opportunity?
I'd say opportunity. New problems come, new solutions come with it.
Yeah.
I like what you said, Ranti. I go with you.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen this happen. We know it can be an opportunity. So embrace it. Become a winner.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's joined and for all your comments. Yeah, I think it'd be great if we continue to do some of this stuff going forward. If anyone who's joined here thinks there was stuff that we haven't covered that you'd want to get covered or delve into more detail around the implementation of some of these systems, please let us know, and we'll try and do some more of this to answer the kind of current concerns and current opportunities as well. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great day. Ciao.
Bye.